Hi, friends. Welcome to another live. Yay. Welcome to the Creative Playground. I hope you can hear me. I hope everything is good to go. Yeah. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how you're doing. It's Women's Day. So shout out to all the women who are watching. Again, whether you're a business owner, a dreamer, a mother, a sister, a friend, shout out to you because you are women's history. Yay. And you should be celebrated today. So of course, for this month, I'm asking you the question, what women have made an impact in your life? It could be your mom, your cousins, your siblings, your aunties, your grandmother, your grandparents. It could be someone famous who might not even know you. But I just really want to know, who are the people in your life that have had an impact on you? Who are the women? So shout out to y'all. Yay, we made it. And so in keeping in womanly fashion, I'm going to be doing some art of Black women, artists who are inspirational to me. And so I'll show you who today's is soon. But before that, let me know how you're doing, what you're doing. I'm gonna get into the talk. So I don't know if you all were able to see, hi, good evening. How are you? So I don't know if you all were able to see the finished the finished piece of art of Miss Tammy Terrell, but I can share it with you guys soon. I'll put it in in a post here or something. But we were able to finish Miss Tammy Terrell. I hope again that you all can hear everything, see everything. Oh yay, hi. I'm looking and sounding good as usual. Yay, thank you. I appreciate it. So again, let me know. Okay, the music is good. The music volume is good. Let me know. But either way, welcome. Yay, I'm happy that you guys are here. And let's get started. Making stuff. So last time we came together, we worked on Miss Tammy Terrell. We didn't finish her because we were talking and we were engaged. And that's totally fine because after the fact, I was able to finish her and share her with other people. And so some people liked it. So shout out to Miss Tammy Terrell. I was really stressed out about doing her justice. So today we are going to... Uh-oh. Can you all see that? Hope you guys can see it. Nancy Wilson. So Nancy Wilson, I'm actually not well informed of all of her catalog. But it wasn't I always knew she existed, but I wasn't really listening to her songs. But there's a recent song, or not a recent song. Recently, I listened to a song from her, In the Middle, I think. It's called In the Middle. My love has no bottom, my love has no top. No front or back, my love. Anyway, but the song is beautiful. Loving you. Of course, his music is throwing me off. But basically, it's the song she's saying, loving you. And you don't know how glad I am. That's the name of the song, How Glad I Am, by Miss Nancy Wilson. Phenomenal. And I almost want to kick myself because I'm how am I just now hopping onto Miss Nancy Wilson? Unfortunately, she's no longer with us. I think she passed in 2018, 2018. So it's been a few years since she's left us, but she's left us with so much music. Her catalog is amazing, and I'm just now diving into it. So I wanted to draw a portrait of her while we talk today. So yay, shout out to Miss Nancy Wilson. Yes, Nancy Wilson. Yes, and she's gorgeous. Ugh, she's gorgeous. She always was gorgeous, even into her older age. Beautiful. All right. So let's start talking and creating art with Miss Nancy Wilson. So again, I hope I do her justice. Let's see how this turns out. All right. So the title of this video, some people are make bad art. Why? Right? Why would I on purpose make bad art? Whether you do it on accident or not, I feel like everybody kind of has a moment where they make bad art. But I really feel like artists should aim to make bad art. And I'll tell you why in a second. But a lot of people, I feel I don't know, this need to be perfect. I don't know where this came from. I think it's just like, I feel like humans just want to feel like they're good at something, right? Like at a basic level, it's just like, oh, I'm good at this thing. Look at me be good at this thing. However, on another level, it can kind of be like crippling for some people. Like being perfect. Like people put all this pressure on again, like perfectionism and just being well polished, and I don't know, just having like all the makings of someone who is like obsessed with not looking like you can make any mistakes, not looking like you can fail, not looking like you're struggling or anything like that. Like they want to look perfect all the time. And that's unhealthy. That's not realistic. Hi Jimmy. And Marcus says she's aged so gracefully. She did. She aged so gracefully. I don't know what it was. I want her secret. My story, Lord, please. But yes, no, Nancy was amazing. Was amazing. And so, again, people really want to be like a good artist. But the problem with like trying to be a good artist is like, what does that even mean? Do we know what it means to be a good artist? And like, who determines what's good? Like, who says like, hey, this is something good? And who is like, it's not that great. Like, whatever it is. Like, who says that something is good? And I feel like people's opinions of what is good is so varied that we really can we really judge what's good and what's not? And I had to ask myself that question, like, what is good art? Like, what is art worth creating? What is art worth sharing? All that, like, because if I didn't define what good enough was for me, I would have been just going with the flow and depending on other people telling me like, oh, this is good, that's not good, this isn't good. And even if they didn't think it was good, right, even if it wasn't their cup of tea, does that mean I should stop making that art? No. Maybe, again, it just wasn't for them. Maybe it just didn't resonate with them. Maybe they didn't get it. But I feel like a lot of people are obsessed with trying to create good art before they even create the art, right? So before they even, again, put the pen to paper or whatever it is, they're like reeling in their head about like, okay, how can I make this process amazing? Not even the process, like how can I make the outcome amazing? And so a lot of artists get caught up in like paralysis because they're like, oh shoot, it's not good enough, it's not perfect, I can't share this, like this is gonna, I don't know, ruin me. I don't know what the worst, whatever the worst case scenario is in their mind, that's going to happen if the thing is not perfect. People will reject me. People will call me a fraud. People will, always remember that I failed at this thing, whatever it is. Like, and it's valid. Like those fears are valid. I'm not saying that they're silly because they're not. Like they're real. However, again, how we always talk about like fear, I feel like fear is well-wishing because it wants to protect us. But I feel like sometimes we give too much power to fear. And so when we allow fear to just kind of run our lives, we don't end up doing anything that we want to do, anything that's beneficial, anything that's hard and beneficial, because we're like, we want to avoid any kind of pain at all. And so, again, we want to be good artists. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a good artist. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, we have to be careful because even if we had this definition of what good is, right? My music will be good enough if blank, just using me as an example. Then once I get to this good enough place, I'm always going to be moving the goalpost even further and further away from myself. Like I'm always going to be like finding something to nitpick about my art about. Like something will always be wrong with what I create, right? Nothing I create will ever be perfect. Jimmy Wells says being true to yourself. That's good. Yes. That is a good definition. That is a good definition. Jimmy says, you're making a lot of sense. I'm glad. That makes me happy. I'm glad. But yeah, like, again, every time that we think like, okay, I wish I can get to this mark, whatever the mark is, right? Then we hit the mark and then we're like, okay, I need to get to the next mark. Like we're like obsessed with always improving ourselves. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But I think when our mentality is always focused on what's next, what's to come, that's when we get in trouble. And so again, maybe I feel like maybe we should redefine what good art actually is. Like, and so Jimmy says like staying true to yourself. I feel like that's a great example of redefining what good enough is. Like if you create a piece of art and you're like, okay, I did the best I could and I did all that I could. I feel like that's a great mark to be like, this is good enough, and it's good enough to share, and it's good enough to be done with. So like, I feel like this week I made a poll because I'm trying to create like this songwriting course for other people, and let me know if you're interested. And so I asked people who follow me on Instagram, so my friends, I was like, what are some of your struggles as a songwriter? Like, what do you struggle with as a songwriter? And someone said they didn't know when a song is finished. I was like, huh. Like, I guess I never really thought about that, like, oh, when is my song finished, right? But I think that's a good, what's the word? That's a good question. Like, when is art finished? Like, when is art good enough to share, good enough to put out? When can I stop fooling around with it, right? And so I was actually talking to one of my friends, Alexis, and I got to interview her for Black Girl Creative, a podcast that I do. And so we were talking about art, and she's a painter. And so she was painting, and we were talking about this. There's a point that artists reach where it's like, you have to be like, I'm done. That's enough. Like, you have to make the decision. You have to make it a point to be like, this is finished and this is good enough, because there will always be things that you can add to a painting. There can always be things that you would change about it. You can paint over the whole thing and just start afresh, right? And the same goes not just for painting, but honestly, any kind of art. Like, any art that there is, you can always fiddle with something to death. Like, think about songs that feel like they're over processed. For those of you who work in music, some people do too much. Like, it's like, it was good and then they did too much. I have to do that with myself when I'm making songs. Sometimes I feel like I harmonize too much, or I do too much to a song, because you can always add. There are endless things that you can add. Come on, Nails. There are endless things that you can add to a song, but at some point you have to be like, okay, I'm done, because we're always going to be fiddling with it and trying to find something else that's wrong with it. So the question is like, when is my art finished? It's whenever you feel like it's good enough to be finished. And I don't think that artists should wait until their art is 100% for them to finish, because you will never finish anything. Like, if you wait for your art to be, again, I don't know. A lot of people use Mona Lisa as like, oh my God, it's the best painting in the world. I personally don't get it, but I'm not a painter either. But I feel like if we're waiting for our painting to be, and I'll just say the Mona Lisa just because I don't know much about painting, then yeah, you'll never create art that's good enough to put out there to share. And I get it. Like, we want stuff to be, again, good enough. But there's this rule that I heard from this other artist, and his rule is that if his art is 70% good enough, then he's just going to stop and share it. Because if we're not careful, again, we will always nitpick and find something wrong with our art. There will always be something wrong with our art. And it doesn't just have to be an art thing. Like, it can also be a business or a new venture or a video or, I don't know, a podcast, whatever it is, whatever you want to create, even just personal stuff you won't share with other people. Like, waiting for perfect times. We talked about this before. Waiting for something perfect is not going to happen. And so we end up wasting time, wasting effort and energy, trying to really anticipate all the things that could go wrong, all the things that, I don't know, that would get in our way to be like some sort of hurdle. When in reality, we can't predict any of that, right? So we're waiting for these perfect opportunities, for this perfect time where our art, our craft, our skill is perfect enough to do the thing. And then we end up never doing anything. So even as I'm doing these fingers, this is not perfect, right? Like, this is good enough. One, it's a pixelated image. So I'm really just guessing here, like where her fingers might have landed. But I'm doing my best. And so if I'm waiting for perfect things, like, one, Miss Nancy Wilson is no longer here with us. So, I can't just like, oh, can I just get a picture of Miss Nancy Wilson? It's like, girl, do what you can with what you have. And I feel like as artists, that's what we need to start doing. Kind of ranting, but I feel like that's important to say. So again, we should redefine what good enough is and really like figure out what is 70% good enough of our art. And then once we figure out what that 70% is, right, then we just do the 70% and be like, okay, good enough, right? Like, all right, good enough. Like, it doesn't, like, we're not waiting for this moment that we feel, again, super proud of our work, even though those things will come. Those times will come where we're like, I did that thing. Like, I or I was true to myself. I was authentic, and that was good enough. But I feel like more times than not, we don't allow ourselves the chance to be bad at something. And there are so many benefits to being a bad artist. Like, so many benefits. Like, have you ever seen people who are just like, whatever, I don't care if it's perfect, but I'm gonna do it anyway? Those people are winning. Like, they're winning because they're not stuck in their head. They're not imprisoned by perfection. They're not like, they don't care. And so even the people that want to judge them and be like, how this person get this thing? Like, they're not even good enough. Like, they're not even that good at whatever they're doing. Song, writing, whatever, right? But they have the audacity to put their stuff out there. And since they have the audacity, they win every time. And so who am I to talk about them at all? Like, I have to give them their props. Like, they're doing the things and taking up space that we talked about before, taking up space that other people don't want to take up or are too afraid to take up. Jimmy Wells says, I have to get back to work. Okay. God bless you too. Shaughnessy! Hi! She says, it's all about perspective. Everybody is not going to like your art or get it. Exactly. I appreciate Basquiat. Some people thought his art was just okay. Exactly, right? Like, that's a perfect example. That's a perfect example. Because I've heard the same thing. Like, some people are like, all right. And I'll be honest. I am one of those people. But again, like, I'm not in that world. I don't know. I couldn't make the stuff that he makes, right? Like, so I honor that and I respect that. But I don't understand. I guess when I'm going to museums, right, and I see paintings, sometimes I sit and I wonder, what makes this art super special? I don't get it. But I know for people who actually appreciate art and who have the capacity and the knowledge to appreciate it, they're like, oh, like they're looking into this thing and they're like dissecting it and they're, doing all this work that I don't do. And they're like, this is why this is valuable. And so, like you said, like there are going to be people who don't like it, but that shouldn't stop you from creating, because there will always be people who do like it. You know what I mean? So that's actually a perfect example. Shaughnessy Sachet agreed. Sorry. Jay says, good and bad are relative perspectives. Sometimes good can be bad to everyone else. And something bad to everybody can be great for one person. That is so true. Like, even in the music scene, like, there are some songs. So I like Meg Thee Stallion. I like her a lot. I think she's fun. She's a great person from what I've seen. I mean, I don't know her. Like, I'm just talking like I know this person. But I like her, and I like the beginning of her music career, her music. But the recent stuff she's put out, I don't get it. And so I was listening to her most recent album. I was like, let me listen to this on Spotify. And I listened to all the tracks, and I'm just kind of like, there were some bops, right? There were some fun things, right? And I don't doubt that she's an amazing lyricist. I think she's a great lyricist. I can't rap, so anybody who's rapping is like, you go, right? But at the same time, some of the songs I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm not the targeted audience. Maybe her audience is for like people who are like 25 and under. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like, and at this point I'm 31, so I'm kind of like I'm in a different place in life. So maybe I'm just kind of like, okay, like, this is fun, but it doesn't really resonate with me. But again, she's amassed so many followers, like so many people love her, and I think she's a great person. But I guess I just, with stuff like that, I don't understand like what everybody is hearing. Like, I'm listening for like the musicality of the song. I'm listening for like, chords and like harmonies, and all it is bass. And so I'm like, you should see me in the car with my husband. I'm like with the headphones in. I'm like, what is? I feel like such an old person, but I'm like, what are they hearing that I'm not hearing? I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. But I think it's just really just supposed to be fun songs. It's not supposed to be, I'm sure for her, like, it's like, this is amazing musically. But for me, it's just not my cup of tea. But she's successful. She's popular. Shaughnessy says, I just appreciate how he expressed himself for him. Yes. He just did him, and I respect it. I respect that too. I really do. And that's why I'm very careful about saying, whether or not someone's art is good or bad, because I'm just like, do I have the power to say someone's art is good or bad? Or can I just say that, oh, it's just not my cup of tea? Prime example. This weekend we watched Coming to America. And me and my friends were talking about this in the group chat. And it was a fun movie. It was fun. I didn't really enjoy it that much. And I think I put too much pressure on it, possibly. But I was like, this is going to be exciting. Like the first one is still like, it's a classic, and it's hard to follow a classic, and it's been 30 years. And so humor back then has changed to what humor is now. And I think sometimes it's hard to translate stuff from back then to now, and to like, you're expecting the same kind of jokes and the same kind of flow as the old movies. And so 30 years later, some stuff isn't appropriate anymore. Even though there were some inappropriate things in my mind in that movie, some stuff isn't appropriate. Some stuff is just not going to be funny anymore. And I feel like this version was was more of a family movie than it was a comedy. That's just how I feel like it was like that's cute. Like, that's a cute movie. Like, it's, nothing, no harm done. But yeah, it just wasn't my cup of tea. And but it was cute. So, but some people are like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I'm just like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, okay. And I know that people have like all these critiques to offer and stuff like that, but y'all ain't making no movie. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't know how hard that is. And maybe it was just supposed to be fun. Some people are like, literally, one of my friends shared in our group text, like somebody was like writing like literal thought pieces. And I'm like, a thought piece on Coming to America? Like, it's to me, it's like wild, because it's like, okay, I guess, right? Like, I don't know. That's just my opinion. But either way, Eddie Murphy don't need my approval. Eddie Murphy is very successful. Like, he's very successful. His movies are classics. He's already paid his dues. He doesn't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. And he really, honestly, he never had to prove anything to anybody. I'm sure, like, with trying to get into like labels and like with executives and all this other stuff. Remember when people made fun of Eddie Murphy for his singing career? Do you remember that? I remember that. And the man was like, whatever, I'm gonna keep singing my songs. I'm gonna sing in every movie I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has this ability to be true to himself and be like, I don't care. Another person like that is Adam Sandler to me. Like, it's just, we talk about him too. Like, he's one of those artists that are just kind of like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna write movies that I want to write. I'm gonna play in them. I'm gonna hire all my friends. It's the same, like, 5 people in every Adam Sandler movie. The same thing with Eddie Murphy. Like, they put their people on. And I can't knock that. I can't be mad at that. But either way, they have this ability to bounce back from people's opinions and the approval of others. Even in the movie in Coming to America, the second one, they made a joke about redoing a classic. They made a joke, like, they put a joke in the movie about like the sequel is never going to be as good as the second movie. You know what I mean? And so, like, he knows that it's not as good as the first one. And he didn't put that pressure on himself either to be amazing, to be great. All he wanted to do was make stuff. And I can commend him, because can you imagine how much pressure that is, coming from 1988 to now and being like, oh God, I got to make a movie that people are going to laugh at. And he knows people's expectations are high. But even in spite of all of that, he's still like, nah, I'm gonna still do what I want to do. That's hard. I'm off topic, but either way, like, that's hard. And so what I've decided recently is to look at these people, right, and really model after them. Because what I've decided is that perfectionism is too hard. It's too hard to be perfect. It's too boring to be perfect. It's too laborious. It's mentally exhausting. It's physically exhausting, and all I want to do is be myself. Literally, that's all I want to do for a living, is to be myself. And I have to, in order to allow myself to be myself for a living, I have to be okay with the parts of me that aren't polished, that aren't perfect, that aren't like, shiny and awesome. And so I think I've just started to give myself permission to be a bad artist. I'll be bad. The thing about being a bad artist is that, one, you have room to play. Like, if you're like, yeah, I own that I'm a bad artist, you can, and again, what does bad mean, right? But if we're talking in terms of other people, not living up to other people's expectations, if you're okay with being a bad artist, nobody can hurt you. Nobody can, like, if you go in there like, yeah, I expect to fail. I expect to suck at this thing. People saying that you suck, you're like, yeah, I already said that. You know, it's almost like some sort of protection for yourself. And not saying that you should lie and say that you don't care, because truth be told, the stuff that I put a lot of pressure on, it's like, the stuff that I put a lot of pressure on, or that I have a lot of value in. Yeah, when someone tells me my song sucks, I'm like, oh, thank you. That hurts, right? But if it's doing something like this, like drawing with you guys, I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this to suck to get better at it. And so if someone says this is trash, I'm like, okay. Like there's less involved with someone when someone tries to offend me. It's like, oh, you can't offend me because I'm bulletproof. I'm fine. That's so handy. Crystal says, plus Eddie Murphy is amazing. He hasn't gotten nearly enough credit from the industry. I agree. This man has put in work. And she says he might as well do what he wants. Absolutely. Because who's going to tell him no? Who's going to tell him no? Like, yeah. Somebody, it was Shaka Khan at the last NBA finals. No, not finals. NBA, where they had the East and West. Somebody help me. Either, I don't watch sports. So, at the last one, Shaka Khan sang the national anthem. So many people dragged her. It was just disrespectful. It was, to me, it's like disrespecting an elder, right? But they were saying all types of stuff, like she was off key, she's washed out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Shaka Khan owes you all nothing. Like, she owes you all nothing. She can get up there and sit in silence and breathe into the microphone, and you're welcome. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy, this pressure that society puts on people to be perfect. One, she's older. Two, go to her catalog. She gave you hits. She has given you hits decade after decade after decade. How many times was she a diva, right? Like, it's silly. It's like, how dare you talk about Shaka Khan? But again, I'm sure Shaka Khan is bulletproof too. And I know that we're seeing these people like now when they're older and they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm wiser now. I don't really care what other people think. I'm rich, you know, who cares? But I really feel like even growing up for them, they were under fire for stuff. You know what I mean? But they still had this tenacity and this drive not to be, yes, I feel like they wanted to be famous. But I feel like more than that, I feel like they just wanted to do the stuff that they loved. They like making people laugh. Like, they like singing. They like creating. And so they were more concerned about the actual process than they were about what people said about them, what people thought about them. Eddie Murphy has had so many movies flop, and he's still making movies, right? Shaka Khan, they dragged her through the mud back then. They drag her through the mud now. They talk about she's an alcoholic. She's a drug user, X, Y, and Z, right? And Shaka Khan still shows her face because, like, this is what she wants to do. This is what she loves to do. And I feel like in all of us, we need to hold on to something similar that these artists hold on to. Shaughnessy says, agree. Eddie is a legend. He is. He really is. He really is. So recently I did a video about being mediocre and how everybody is trying to avoid at all costs being mediocre. Everybody right out the gate wants to be great, wants to be amazing. Like, and again, what does that mean? How do you define that for yourself? But then also, if perfection doesn't exist, right? If perfection is just this idea that we have that's ever changing, ever evolving, that means the same thing. But if we have this definition of perfection that we can never reach, then why do we waste so much time trying to be perfect? Like, why do we waste so much valuable and precious time trying to make our art perfect? I don't understand it. And I'm asking myself this, right? Because I know, again, I tell you all the time, perfectionism doesn't exist. And here I am afterwards. I'm like, I just want to make sure my stuff is perfect. I want to make sure my stuff is good. And all the while, like, putting all this energy into the wrong stuff. That is not the color of her eyebrows. Lord help. It's always the eyebrows and the teeth that get me. I don't like it already. But we're going to keep going. We're going to be mediocre. So this is actually a good example of what I'm about to say. You know, we spend so much time trying to be mediocre when we should be spending time on being good enough, on getting the idea across. And so what is the benefit of being mediocre. You know, like I said, there are people out there who are winning simply because they're showing up and doing the thing. Again, people that we can talk about all we want to and say, oh, they not good enough. Talk about Shaka, but you're not on that. You're not on that stage singing your little heart out. You know what I mean? Talk about, it doesn't even have to be famous people. It could be friends or whatever, like envy within a community. And it's like, well, this person isn't even that good. How are they even doing that? How do they have the audacity to think that they can do something like that? It's simple. They gave themselves permission, and they gave themselves permission to be bad at it. I love seeing people fail publicly. I love it. Meaning, I love seeing people figure out what they're doing in public places. So whether that's social media, whether it's, you know, live like this, whether it's, you know, a friend saying, I'm starting this thing, I'm doing this thing, and they're committed to it, and they're saying, I'm going to get this thing done. They don't allow this need to be perfect to stop them from doing the thing. Ah, yay. Carla, hi. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you made it. Yay. So yes, we should focus on being prolific. So this is actually something I got from my husband. Shout out to you, baby. Wherever you're listening, I know he's in the living room. But I got this from my husband. I was so concerned with musically, right? I'm like, well, in order to put out a song, I have to write it. I have to record it. I have to edit it. I have to, you know, mix and master it, or he does it. I have to give it to Jamal to mix and master. I have to then market it. I have to put together a whole body of work. That's exhausting. Like doing all of that just sounds like, and so I would get in this place where I don't even want to do it. Forget it. I'm not interested in doing it, right? And my husband would tell me, worry about being prolific over being perfect. And so at first I'm like, but in order to be, when we hear the word prolific, we think about like famous writers and, you know, that's always like in their bio, like a prolific writer. And so we think like, oh, well, they're perfect. So duh, like in order to be prolific, I got to be perfect. When really it's just like being prolific means just creating a body of work, just means like creating a huge body of work. Let me actually look up the definition. I'm gonna give y'all Webster's. But yes, but being prolific should be the focus instead of being perfect. So let's type in prolific in the computer. Prolific, present in large numbers. English is hard. Present in large numbers or quantities. Plentiful. So again, present in large numbers or quantities. Plentiful. Quality is not mentioned here. It's not mentioned at all. Like, it's really just talking about putting out something in large amounts. So again, if you're writing a book or if you're writing poetry, let's start there. If you're writing poetry, maybe instead of like focusing on like trying to write the best poems, you just write the poems. Just write the poems. You know what I mean? Who cares if they're good or bad? Who cares if they resonate with people or not? Just make the poems, or write the poems, not make the poems. Make the poems. Like, just do that. Focus on doing that instead of trying really hard to be something you can't control anyway. Like, you can't control who likes your stuff. You can't control who resonates with it, who watches it, who listens to it. All you can control is actually doing the stuff and putting it out there. That's literally all we have control over. But so often, it's far too often that we try to control every part of something, when in reality, all we need to do is just to keep doing it. And again, it's easier said than done, because I literally just told y'all I'd be in here like, I gotta write the perfect song. The song doesn't make any sense. And I try to combat that with being okay with writing bad songs, because the thing is, any good songwriter had to be bad in the first place anyway. Any person we look up to, Shaka Khan, Eddie Murphy, Adam Sandler, who else we mentioned before? Basquiat, right? Like, am I saying that right? Any creative that we look up to, that we honor, like, they had to be okay with going through whatever they thought was bad, right? Because it's not about what we think, it's about what they think is good enough to be put out there. They had to go through their own time of being like, this sucks, and yet I'm still going to create. This sucks, and yet I'm still going to share it. This sucks, and I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to judge myself based on, one, my early tries or even my later tries. And they were okay with evolving. So we talk about Adam Sandler. A lot of his movies in the beginning were very like slapstick, kind of corny, just kind of ridiculous, like just kind of fun, right? Recently, though, he has like jumped into the world of like serious roles. Like I remember this role, he had cancer or something, and he was a comedian, and he was trying, and he was really showing the life of a comedian. Like everybody sees a comedian and they think, oh, they're happy all the time, they're just so full of joy. And really, he was suffering silently, but felt like he couldn't really share his serious side with his audience and with his people. And he felt like his comedy or his comedic nature was really a guard for his heart for himself. And so this was the first time I think I ever saw Adam Sandler in like a serious role. And I'm like, wow, the range, right? Like you would never know it existed. And the only way that they could be open to evolving is because they were open to being bad at wherever they started in the first place. You know, we want so badly we think that we know where we want to go. And I forget where I watched this or heard this at. Baby, maybe you can tell me. But somebody was talking about how we want everything to be GPSed, right? Like we want to go where we want to go on our own time, our own timeline. And then like we want God to say, you go here, you turn left, you do this. Like it's really just kind of automatic. We just follow these steps and then bam, like you're where you want to be. When really most of the time it's like God is like, okay, I put this dream in your heart. I put this talent in your your little knapsack. I don't know, whatever God puts, however God gives us things. I put this thing in you, and I need you to be close to me at all times to know where to go next, what to do next, like where to go. And so for me, one of my things that I get stuck up on is like, I need God to tell me everything for me to trust him, for me to be like, all right, let's go. Let's get moving. And I'm really trying to move out of that because one, that's not trust, right? Like that's not trust. If you have to ask, if somebody tells you, oh yeah, I don't know, we're going to the movies, and then, you're in the car with them and you're like, are we really going to the movies? What's really happening, right? You're suspicious of them. You're not trusting of them. And so, with a lot of things in our own lives, like we want to have all the steps and all the things mapped out when God just wants us to just take the first step with him. Like this one little thing I showed you, just do that, right? And so I think of those people who we mentioned before. Okay, just start with comedy. You're funny. Like, do stand-up. Okay. And from stand-up, maybe their goal wasn't to get on SNL, but they did. They got on SNL. Okay. Jim Carrey, same. Like, sorry, not SNL. What am I thinking about? In Living Color. So yeah, these people got on SNL. Jim Carrey got on Living Color. Was Jim Carrey on SNL too? Anyway, somebody can answer that for me. But yeah, so they took these little baby steps, these little things. They were bad at it. They were bad at doing stand-up comedy on stage. They were bad at doing it on SNL. Then they figured it out, and then they became better. And then they started doing movies, right? Then they started doing more serious roles. Even Jim Carrey, what is it? Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That movie makes me sob, and he's acting in such a serious role. And we're so used to seeing Jim Carrey do like Liar Liar or what's that other movie he does? And it's just wildly inappropriate. Either way, we're used to seeing him do these silly roles, and then he does the serious stuff, and it's like, wow, like I never knew that. And maybe he never knew that either, but it started with him taking the first step and being okay with being bad. Kyla, you're welcome. Yes, being prolific over being perfect, for sure. Shaughnessy says, same with Matthew McConaughey. Yes. He felt trapped in romantic comedies and started rejecting those roles so he could do more serious stuff. Wow, I didn't know that. He was in a loop for a while with those romantic comedies. I remember there was like The Wedding Planner, Failure to Launch, and I love rom-com. So he was in a lot of lead roles in those kind of movies. I forgot about that. But yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be okay with pivoting and changing your mind. But in order to pivot, you got to start. Because if you're standing in one spot, technically, I guess you can. Like, speaking of basketball, you can pivot, right? But you're not going nowhere. You got to pass the ball to somebody else to go somewhere. It's better if you can be in motion and then kind of, oh, okay, let me go over this way. And then, oh, here's something else to do. Here's something new to do, right? Versus just staying in our own heads and being like, well, I got to figure out the perfect way to get there. And so even in this GPS analogy, we want to avoid the potholes, the stoplights. We want to avoid traffic. What else? Maybe we don't want to see the scenic route. We want the straightaway route, like through the city, or avoiding the city altogether. we don't want the Uber, right, with the, and this is a different example, but whatever, go with me, with other people joining it. What is it, like sharing a ride or whatever it is? We want to do stuff on our own terms, the easiest way, the fastest way. And really sometimes the greatest stuff comes from the actual process. The greatest like juice, the greatest knowledge, the wisdom, the experience comes from the process. The strength, the courage to even do that stuff. I really feel like these actors, before they turned into like serious actors, I mean, look at Jim Carrey now, he's a painter. Like he's a painter. I feel like in order to be courageous enough to do different things, to do new stuff, we have to be okay with being courageous enough to be bad at first, to be bad and to just do little small things. Anyway, that's how I feel about that. Jay says Jim Carrey was on Living Color. Okay, he was on Living Color and he hosted in SNL, but wasn't a regular cast member. Thank you. Yeah, I knew he was on in Living Color, but I do remember him being on SNL. But yeah, it was for him hosting. Yeah, that's cool. Shaughnessy says, I watched an interview with him maybe from 2 years ago where he was saying that. Yes. Are we talking about Jim Carrey? But yes. He's somebody I really look up to. And I really feel like now he's kind of like a recluse. And he has been through some things. Like he has been through trauma. I'm losing his girlfriend and all that stuff. I feel like he's just a changed man now. But I still feel like he had to be courageous to be himself. Like, can you imagine how many actors were, how many like film writers were like, you have to play this slapstick role, this role you always play. And him being like, actually, I'm going to play a lead in a romance that's kind of like a tragedy. Like Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is kind of tragic. But it's a beautiful movie. It's with Kate Winslet. And those are the two main characters. And so I'm not going to spoil it for you. Just go see it. It's really good. Or Robin Williams, the same thing. Robin Williams played in so many comedies like Mrs. Doubtfire, other comedies that I can't think of right now. But one of my favorite roles that he was in is Bicentennial Man, and also What Dreams May Come. Me and my husband are gonna watch that soon. But those are serious roles. Like there might be some humor in it, but more than that, there are serious roles that I'd never seen him play in before. And I think it takes bravery to be like, I'm not gonna be what you all thought I was gonna be. I'm gonna be who I am, and I'm gonna do what I'm interested in and try my hand at it, because he could have done it and it could have flopped, but he was willing to take that risk. And I feel like you build the courage to take risks, to be bad at stuff by being bad at stuff. Like you can't build the courage to do something without doing stuff to set a platform for it. We're all waiting for bravery to come. We're all waiting to be brave enough to do something new. And when it doesn't come, we think like, oh, well, I can't do it now because I'm not brave enough. I'm not good enough. The only way that you can get good enough or brave enough is by doing it. By failing and falling on your face, figuring it out along the way, and just doing the thing. Oh, Matthew. Yes. Matthew. Yes. Yeah, because I think he recently put out a book. Shaughnessy says, people got to appreciate the unknown stage, because when you're mainstream, people expect you to keep doing the same type of art. Yes. This is actually something I did a podcast episode about that, in a video, I think, about being a beginner, and how in the beginning, when you're bad at something, it's like, when you're bad at something, you have room to play and experiment and to be bad without people expecting something from you. Like there's no pressure on you to be this amazing thing. You can be all that you want to be. And so people who have amassed a following based on one thing or like a specific thing, like they freak out when their artists change their minds, when they change the sound of their music, or now they're going to try acting, or, and I feel so sorry for those people, because it's like they're people they're artists who are interested in many things, but they're pigeonholed because we, the fans, feel like we have a claim on what they can and cannot do. And that's simply not true. And some people are afraid of doing that because they're afraid of losing their fans. When really, if we become fans of a person, it doesn't matter what they do. We're in it. Like, sure, why not? Even if you are a bad actress. Okay. Like, people like to talk about actresses. Like, I think about Little Kim and You Got Served. and You Got Served is a funny movie anyway. But it's interesting. Whether or not it's your cup of tea or not, Little Kim got on that little thing and she started acting. And, it's a little rough. But I can appreciate and honor the fact that she was willing to even try to act. Because acting isn't for everybody. And maybe after that, she was like, okay, that's enough. That was fun. But like, even the courage to be bad at it and be like, I'm still getting paid, right? Like, I'm still doing something that I want to do. That's commendable. That's good enough. So I agree. Winging Wolf 500. Hi. Robin Williams' Good Will Hunting is a good one. That is a good one. And even his comedy shows some of his other facets. I agree. Mrs. Doubtfire, definitely, like tender moments. Tender. There's always a touch of tenderness with Robin Williams. And it's so unfortunate. When I heard that he committed suicide, it's so unfortunate because everybody's first thing was, oh, he seemed like such a happy guy. And I'm like, you don't know him. Like, you don't know him. All we know is what he puts on the stage, right? And sure, looking in, it's like, oh, this guy's so happy because he makes me laugh. When it's like, or this person is multifaceted because all people are multifaceted. And he's capable of feeling every kind of emotion. Sadness, guilt, loneliness, unforgiveness, all the emotions that we can feel, these people can feel too. And for me, it was just amazing that was the first response for a lot of people, was like, oh, but he seems so happy. You mean just because he entertained you? But I can understand why people felt that way. But yes, Good Will Hunting was a good one, for sure. Yes, but again, being prolific, meaning putting out a ton of work. The thing is, we feel like it has to be good to put it out. That's not true. That's not the case. There are a lot of songs I like that are not perfect. There are a lot of books that I like that have typos in it. That aren't formatted correctly. There is art that people create that I see, and I'm like, I resonate with that. And I feel like what's more important than things being perfect is that it is authentic, is that it is being true and honest. And I feel like when things are honest and true, other people who experience that same thing or feel that same thing or can resonate with that thing, like, that's successful. But even if they couldn't ring true with whatever you created, I feel like it's successful. Like Jimmy said earlier, that would be successful if you were just being honest and true to yourself. And maybe that's good enough. You know what I mean? Let's see. Miss Nancy. This might be a two-parter with Miss Nancy Williams. What's it? I said Williams. Wilson. Forgive me. But yes, perfection doesn't exist, so we should stop chasing it. Overall, like, we will never be satisfied with anything we do. We are going to hate ourselves, hate everything we make, no matter how many times we make it. Like, it's never going to be good enough. And so since it's never going to be good enough, the pressure is off to be perfect. Since it doesn't exist, we can just create stuff because we enjoy creating it, right? Like, since we know that we will never be close to any idea of what perfection is, that should free us to be able to make stuff because we want to make it, not because it had to be perfect. But instead, we choose to, like, box ourselves into these little prisons of, like, unworthiness and, I don't know, whatever emotion, like, keeps you trapped in that box. Y'all, it's really hard to see her lips. Here we go. So yes, and so if I focused on being perfect, nothing would be put out. This live would not be happening. I would not be creating this portrait. I would not be singing and sharing my music. What else? Wouldn't be sharing my stuff on Instagram, Facebook, none of that. Like, if I was too worried about being perfect, nothing would get done. I would be really depressed in my room, unaware of, like, the potential that I have, the interest that I have. And really just kind of feeling like I don't have a purpose. I don't have a goal. But it's really in me being imperfect and just experimenting and trying stuff. I didn't even doing the vocal stuff that I do, that was an accident. That was actually suggested to me by my husband. So I did a song a while ago called, it's a hymn. And God sent his son. They call him Jesus. So that hymn, and life is worth, because he lives. And I was feeling really depressed. And I just sang that song. And so I shared it. And so my husband was like, why don't you just put together a project where you just sing songs a cappella? And I'm like, nah, I need a whole band. I need, like, I need to pay for sessions and all this stuff. Like, I need. I'm not good enough. I need this to start. And my husband really was like, no, like, try it. And so we had, which was interesting. Like, we had rehearsals with people, and, like, the stuff, it really never got done, just because when you're working with other people, it does take a lot of work, and that's fine. But it's like, he was like, no more excuses, just do the thing. And so I was like, all right. So I picked 5 songs. I think it was 5 or 6 songs that I really enjoyed. And I did them a cappella. I did Is This Love, Lovely Day, Emily King, Sides. I did Donny Hathaway's Someday We'll All Be Free, and Coldplay, In My Place. Oh, and I also did The Hymn, so that was included there. So it was 6 songs. So yeah, so that whole project was an accident, and it was really just me experimenting. Like, literally, that whole project was an experiment. And luckily, people enjoyed it. I'm glad that people enjoyed it. But really, people are like, "Oh my God, like this is great," and I'm like, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that." But I really had to be okay with it being imperfect, and really just, and that's why it was called A Bite of My Heart. My later projects were called Play, because that's what I figured it was all about anyway. It wasn't about being perfect. It was just about having fun and playing. But again, if I was worried about being perfect, that stuff wouldn't have been put out there. There are so many, like, I listened back to those projects and I'm like, ooh, like I'm a little flat here. I could do a little better here. Maybe I should have done it this way. And the only way that I actually learned, like, one, how to get to where I am today, and where I am today is not perfect, right? Is by being imperfect and just trying things and seeing what sticks and seeing what happens. And I really wish just more people gave themselves permission to be bad, to be a bad artist. And I wish more people saw the beauty in being a bad artist. And so if we got comfortable with sharing imperfect things, like, how much more would we create? If we weren't concerned about what people thought about our stuff, if we weren't concerned about being perfect, how much more would get done? How much more art would be created? And that's the question I asked in the video I did recently about being mediocre. It's sad. It's sad that there's so much art that has yet to be created because people are so horrified of being bad at something. And they, like, I really feel like God gives us abilities and talents and stuff that he wants us to use with other people. And because we're so stuck in our own heads and so stuck with trying to be perfect, we're not only missing out on stuff for us, but for other people too. Like, our gifts are not just for us. Our gifts aren't just for us to hoard and, oh, look at this thing I can do. No, like, your gifts are given to you for other people. And so be imperfect. Start imperfectly. Just make sure you start. Make sure you do the thing. And no, I don't think that your art should be driven by guilt and fear of like, oh God, I'm not using the purpose you gave me. But I really feel like it is, again, like I said before, it is God's joy for you to use your talent. And I feel like he wants your, what's the word? He wants your talent to be enjoyable. Like, he wants you to enjoy your talent too. I don't think he wants us to carry this thing like it's heavy or laborious or scary. I feel like he gives us a gift, and it's almost like someone afraid. Like, if somebody gave you a candle, I don't know, it's a silly example. Somebody gave you a candle and you're like, oh no, I'm afraid to light my candle because, I don't know, what could happen? It could burst into flames, or I'm afraid to light my candle because I don't want to run out of my candle. Or I'm afraid, this is a really bad example, but you would feel a way because you're like, why are you not using my gift? Right? Why are you not using the gift I gave you? I gave this to you for a purpose. And candle is a bad example, but let's think of a gift you can give somebody that actually means something, that will actually help them. And then you see them kind of hoarding it and like, you're like, why are you hiding my gift? Why are you putting my gift under your like mattress? What's up with that? You would feel a way. And I really feel like our gift is just like that candle. As silly as that sounds, like, why'd you put my candle under your mattress? That's what we do to our gifts all the time because we're too afraid to try it, too afraid to be messy and bad. If we only knew like how great of an impact our gifts can have on other people, like, we would be like running and clamoring to use our gifts, to be using that stuff, to set ourselves free, but also other people free. For people who are parents, again, you give your kid, there's always that meme that goes around every Christmas where it's like a mom laying on the couch, looking at her kids open presents. And there's so much joy on her face. And it's like, this is how every mother looks at their kids on Christmas Day, because they see joy. They take joy in seeing their kids open something that they gifted them. And I really feel like God does the same things with us. All the talent, you are talented. Even though, whatever it is, like, you are talented just because you are a creation. You were created. And there's no way that you're not talented. Like, if you are a creation, if God made you, you are talented. You are gifted. You are gifted. And yet we sit on our gifts and we wonder why we feel depressed. Like, you feel depressed because you need to be making the stuff. And I say this to you as I say to myself. I can tell when I need to make something. I can tell when I've been in my head. I've been trying to like write stuff down and plan stuff out. I just need to get out there and make stuff. Crystal said that. Crystal said, so true. Yay. I'm glad you can resonate with it. I'm stuttering. But yes, if we got comfortable with imperfect things, how much more art would we create? How much more art would exist in the world? How much more businesses and nonprofits and movements and all the stuff would exist? How many needs would be met? How many hearts would be filled and healed? Like, because we're sitting around trying to be perfect. That's never going to happen. Like, they don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be. Nothing is going to be perfect. There will always be flaws in everything. But we're happy that things exist, right? Like when you go to your restaurant or, you know, when you go out to eat, the restaurant's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but you're happy it exists. And that's a small example of a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? But like, what about something that God gave you? What is something you want to try that you're afraid to be mediocre at? How can you be, like I said in the video, how can you be mediocre today? And what's funny is, in being mediocre, you iterate more, you create more, you do more, right? And then in turn, you actually get better at the thing. You get better versus someone who's like, it has to be perfect before I share it, right? It has to be phenomenal, amazing, breathtaking before I share it. So they'll only create, for the sake of example, maybe they only create 2 works of art a year, right? Where someone who's prolific is more concerned about just putting the work out there. They create something every week. So you have 2 works of art that are amazing a year versus 52, or I'll say like 32 works of art that are mediocre. And then you have 20 more works of art that are amazing and phenomenal and impactful. Like, let's say that, impactful. The person who's winning is the mediocre person. The person who's winning is the one who gets in the ring. The person who's winning is the one who tries and actually does the work and creates. And I feel like that's the focus that we should put on our art, is being prolific and not perfect. And again, your work doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be impactful. And having an impact doesn't mean that you have 1 million subscribers or 1 million followers or 1 million fans. Like, it could be literally you creating a work of art. And this has happened so much. And I'm so grateful. I've made something I think is mediocre. It's average. It's okay. It's not, it's not New York Times bestseller. You know what I mean? And I put out that book. And like I told y'all before, this girl came up to me and was like, oh my God, I read your book. And this is exactly what I needed to hear. Y'all, the book was a mess. The format was a mess. It was the wrong font. The font was too big. Like, all these things I sat on and was like, this is so ugly. I hate this, right? And I'm like, no one's going to read it. No one's going to care. What was more important wasn't the formatting. It wasn't about the layout of the book. It wasn't about, the font size. It wasn't about how cute it was. It was about that what was important was that it was true and it was honest and it was authentic. And it was authentic and honest enough to impact somebody else who was healing from their own broken heart. And that moment humbled me. It was, girl, you're worried about the wrong things. You're doing the wrong, like, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. And I really, looking back, I was like, should I even put this out? I don't know. Like, I'm scared. And then I put it out and people resonated with it. And I'm like, wow. Okay, so it doesn't have to be, I don't have to have a whole thing behind me. I can just create the stuff. Marquita says, I wish we trusted the art process enough to let it be as natural as possible. Yes, me too. Me too. So do I. I'm finish Miss Nancy later. So do I. And I feel like when things go naturally, you're not too early. You're not too behind. You're right exactly where you need to be. And I feel like for a lot of people, we just need to be okay with being where we are and being okay and understanding that where we are right now is exactly where we need to be. You being a bad artist, you sucking at songwriting, you sucking at painting, what is something? Like, you sucking at drawing stuff. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. That's exactly where you need to be. Because there is where you get the knowledge and the skill and the discipline and the tenacity and the drive, and you get your why. If you were great at something, you would do stuff just because you're great at it, right? When you're bad at something, but you are driven to become good at something, usually your why is bigger. Why do I want to become a great, artist? Let's insert a painter. Why do I want to be a great painter? Because it feels good to paint. Because I can bring an idea from my head onto the canvas, because I can create picture-like things on the canvas, right? And maybe it's just therapeutic. People who are willing to be bad at something have more fun. They're more free. They don't care. They're not doing it for your approval. They're doing it because it feels good to them. And I feel like we all need to get on that wave. Do stuff because it feels good to you, because it looks good to you. Even if it doesn't look good, do it because the process is more enjoyable than the outcome. We really need to focus more on creating stuff with processes that we can enjoy, that move us, that are healing and beneficial. And the outcome will be beautiful if we focus on the process first. The process should be fun first. And I understand that in the process, there'll be things that are heavy and hard and difficult, but it doesn't mean that the process is something you should just give up on, because again, your why will hold you to that process. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. You don't know what to do next. But the process of doing whatever that thing is more beneficial than the outcome. And if you're focused more on the outcome, maybe you need to try something else, because the outcome is not going to sustain you. Because what if you don't get that desired outcome? Or what if the outcome looks different than what you thought it's supposed to look like? Or what if when you get that outcome, it's still not good enough? Some people are like, oh, I want to have 1 million followers. Okay, you get 1 million followers and you still empty. What was that for? You know what I mean? Or money. Like, listen, I could use $1 million, but there are some millionaires that are empty and sad. Like, there are people who are wealthy, who have things that we want, who aren't fulfilled because the process of getting there, either they stepped over people, they put people down, they were doing it for the wrong reasons. And when they finally get it, it's like, oh, well, this is meaningless. This is sad, right? I have little notes, you guys, so I'm trying to make sure I cover everything before we roll out. You know what I'm saying? So the more art we create, like I said, the better we become anyway. So it's almost like it's silly. It's silly that we're trying so hard to be perfect right out the gate. When we're okay with being bad at something, we just do the thing, and then in turn we find our own voice in whatever that thing is. So take drawing, right? I can't draw. So take drawing. I mean, I guess I can draw, but it's not. Anyway, moving on. So drawing. If I'm drawing stick figures every single day, making stuff every single day, yeah, it might suck at first. Yes, it probably is bad at first, right? Yeah, it's like, girl, what is that? But if I'm okay with being bad and being a beginner, then I'm going to keep doing it because it's fun. And then 30 days down the line, I will be 30 days further, like 30 days better than I was at the beginning of the process. And so even for me, like, I'm starting these like 30-day challenges for myself. Next month in April, I'm going to try to write a haiku every day just because I want to be prolific. Like, I say I want to write, but I'm not writing. Why? Because I'm like, well, if I write something, it has to be this complete work of art. It has to be a story. It has to be perfect. No, Alecia, if you want to be a writer, you have to write. And in May, I'm thinking about writing a song every day. And so y'all pray for me because I'm thinking about it, but I think it'll be fun. Like I told you, I have like this love letter project where people send me letters or answer questions or leave comments or whatever, and I make a song out of whatever they send me. And so I'm starting that process now, and that's fun. And so for me, the bigger why for that is not to like, oh, I want to write an amazing song. No, the process and the focus of that process is that I want to write a song for somebody. I want to write a song with someone in mind. And so it's easier for me to create that art because the pressure is off of me. The focus is off of me and my talent. The focus is on the people that I want to serve. And so would I just want to like leave their notes in my inbox and be like, well, I'm not good enough, so I'm not going to send you anything. No, like these are people who need some love and need some encouragement. So therefore I want to send that stuff to them. And maybe the songs will suck and maybe they won't be great, but them getting done is what's most important. So I do want to ask you, how are you going to be mediocre today, in the coming week, in the coming year? Like, can this be the year of mediocrity for you? Like, and for some people, they're like, why would I want to be mediocre? Because being mediocre might actually get you off the couch or, in front of the mic or whatever it is that you want to do, as opposed to you just sitting there and planning and dreaming and trying so hard to be perfect, trying to achieve something that we can't achieve. That's the point of being mediocre. That's the point of being average. That's the point of being bad at something. It's not, again, to have some desired outcome, but the desired outcome, I guess, is that you just want to be practiced, is you want to do the thing. You know what I mean? Let me know if that makes sense. Let me know if y'all resonate with that. But yeah, like, again, the more art we create, 2 more points, the more chances we have at it impacting people. Think of artists you found that you're like, oh snap, they have, like, you found one song from an artist, and then you go back and you're like, oh my God, look at this catalog this person put out because they were prolific, and you're able to like binge listen to their music and have a greater appreciation for this person and their creativity. Think about artists whose poems you might have found on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. And you're like, oh, let me look up this person. Who is this person? Because that's amazing. And they've been writing poems for like 5 years. And nobody has been paying them attention. Nobody has been approving of them. Nobody has been, on a mass, like on a big scale. But at some point, somebody found them because they kept putting stuff out there. So you want to be found. You want to be appreciated and supported. You got to keep putting yourself out there. And maybe today, and again, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm just sharing what I feel like is on my heart to share. And I'm sharing it with you as I'm sharing it with myself because I need to hear this too. You might put out a video or a song or a post or whatever it is, and you hear crickets, or 5 people might like it, or 10 people, right? Be grateful for those 10 people. I'm grateful for all I think it says like 6 people are here right now. I'm grateful for all of y'all watching. I'm grateful. Like, I'm not like, oh, I wish I had 50 people watching. No, like, I'm grateful, and it's okay. You know what I mean? And eventually, maybe it will get bigger, but right now, this is all I can handle. That's a whole other. Let me just say this. I was talking to my friend Alyssa. This was last week. And I was telling her how frustrated I was as a singer. And I'm like, I just want to make it. I feel like I have so much riding on like my talent, and I have so much riding on like financially. I just want to get out of debt. I want to make money from my art. And so I was telling her how frustrated I was. And she asked me, she said, if a record label came to you today and said, Alecia, we got everything laid out for you. We have the works, we have a contract for you to sign, a bonus, we just need you to do X, Y, and Z. Would you be ready for it? And I told her, no, I'm not ready for that. Like, I am not ready for that. Okay. Doing this with 6 people live is hard enough. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard enough. And maybe later on it'll get better. But I know that if a record label came to me today and said, hey, we want to sign you. Are you ready to jump on board and tour the world and do all that? I'm not ready. I'm not ready mentally, spiritually, like, maybe whatever. I don't think I'm ready for that. And so it's amazing that we want all these things right now, all these things today. We want to be perfect right now today, when really maybe God is just protecting us from getting all those things because we're not ready for it. Like, we can't foresee what's going to happen in the future. Maybe we're just not ready for it. And that really helped me put that in perspective with being okay with where I am today, being okay with being bad today, being unknown, being not super supportive, because I want to become the person that I need to be in order to accept that stuff and be responsible for it, be mature enough for it, and really, being mature enough for whatever that stuff is that maybe God has for me in the future. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Who knows, right? But I'm not doing this because I want to be famous. I'm doing this because creating and talking to you guys and making music and doing stuff for fun is fun. It's fun first. So again, find some way to enjoy the process beyond just like, oh, I want to enjoy this process because I want to be famous. I want to be rich. That stuff. Stop. Like, that stuff is not important. What is important to you? Like, what about the process can you enjoy? The desired outcome, you don't know if that's going to happen. You don't know when that's going to happen. And so that's not going to sustain you. That's not going to sustain you. What will sustain you is holding on to a why that actually resonates and means something to you. And people who are okay with being bad, they're winning. People who are okay with being sucky, they're winning. People shoot their shot every single day. Okay. Like, even romantically, like, they're just like, okay, you don't want me? Fine. I'm on to the next one. Moving on. There are people who I don't have it in me, but there are people who have that in them. And my hat goes off to them because they're just so resilient. They're just like, whatever. Okay. I know there's someone out there for me. I know I'm good stuff. I know I'm the prize. Right. And so they go out there and they keep shooting their shot. And I want to be like them. Like, not romantically, I'm good, but like creatively, like, just being brave enough to keep shooting my shot. And like that saying goes, like, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I know it's cheesy, but it's so real. Like, give yourself chances to win. Give yourself chances to be found, to be successful, whatever successful is to you. But in order to be successful, in order to be found, in order to be this person that you want to be, you have to be okay with being bad at first. You have to be okay with sucking and, being frustrated with your art, because the process is more important than the outcome. The process is more important than the outcome. And again, like I said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. What shots haven't you taken yet? Why are you sitting on the bench? I shared this analogy in my podcast today, and I was a volleyball player in high school. And so there were players on the volleyball team who weren't good. They just weren't good. And so some of them sat on the bench and they were like, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of all the stadium full of people. I don't want to, look dumb. I don't want to fall on my face. These people are better than me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get spiked on because that's embarrassing. And there are people who are bad who are like, I don't care. Give me playtime. I'm ready to go. They're all over the place. We know if the ball's going to them, it's going to go out. And so, you get frustrated because you're playing. But in the moment, I'm looking back on that. And I'm like, wow, that is bravery. That is bravery. And so they were okay with being bad at first and learning and getting experience in. And so what happened at the end of the season? At the end of the season, they got most improved player or sometimes MVP because they kept showing up versus the person who kept sitting on the bench because they were scared. And so they're both in the same place. They both sucked in the beginning. But at the end of the season, one person was better than the other person, not because they were just inherently better, but because they were okay with sucking and learning and improving along the way. And I look back on that and I'm like, that's the kind of artist I want to be. That's the kind of person I want to be. Whether it's starting a business and it fails. Okay, what does that mean if it fails? Not that I'm a failure, but that something else needs to happen or something needs to change. But I'm not going to know that stuff unless I keep being prolific rather than trying to be perfect. So, thank you, baby. You're doing great, my love. Thank you. Wingable 500 says, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Yes. That's funny. That's a really good quote. That is a really good quote. Marcus said, that's a word. I just hear it in your voice. But it's true. Like Marcus, and you were there. You saw these volleyball players. There were people who were just like, it's not looking good. But at the end of the season, whether they won an award or not, they still improved and they started to become a part of the machine being the team, because they were brave enough to be put out there. Miss T, sub me in, get me in, right? They were brave enough to do it. And so by doing it and failing and being bad at it and having the boo hiss, from the crowd or from the glare from your teammates, you know what I mean, for going out of bounds and losing the game, because of their tenacity and their courage, they were able to improve. And then at the end of the season, it's like, yes, please sub her in, please help, And so I really feel like we all have the potential to become better. We all have the potential to be all that God wants us to be, but we have to be willing and obedient and be okay with not having all the answers, with not being good, with not being perfect, but just being prolific. Just saying, okay, God, you told me to do this thing. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. And maybe your thing isn't putting out something every day or every week or every month. Whatever timeline that is for you that you can work with, just do that. Maybe you don't have to share it. Maybe just if you want to become a writer, just journal every day. That's okay. That counts because you're in the process and you're in the practice of writing. You know what I'm saying? You're not just going to jump out there and, I want to, run a marathon. And if I get in a marathon, I'm going to get sick. I'm probably going to pass out, right? If I do a 5K, because I'm not trained to do a 5K. So while I'm training, no one's cheering me on. No, my husband might cheer me on, but no one's like, oh my God, you're amazing. You're doing the 5K. I'm not being perfect. I'm taking baby steps every day. But at the end of that whole process, that if I hold on to that why, at the end of the process, I'll be able to complete a 5K because I put in the work. I failed on my face. I worked through my not wanting to do it. I did what I had to do to get there. And I really feel like Marcus said so true. Yes, Marcus was on the was our manager for the volleyball team. Shout out to you. And he was actually a lot better than some of the girls on the team, but we didn't have a male volleyball team. Dang. Anyway, but yeah, again, be okay with not being perfect. Be okay with being prolific. And I promise you, like the Bible verse says, the race isn't given to the swift, right? It's given to those who endure. It's about endurance. It's about playing the long game versus the short game. We're not in a rush. I know that this world, you have to get it. You have to get it now. You have to do it now. When you just have to just keep jogging. Just walk. You know what I'm saying? Whatever your pace is, be okay with that. Be okay with that. And then eventually you will build endurance. You will build endurance. And maybe then you could do a light little power walk, and then you could do a light jog, and then you get running. You know what I'm saying? You get running. But you have to be okay with taking the baby steps first and doing the ugly parts and the parts that are not fun, not perfect first. So it's 9:16. I want to respect your time. But I hope that what I shared with you made sense. I hope that you're motivated to be a bad artist, a bad whatever it is, business owner, artist, farmer. I'm looking at the people here who told me what they wanted to be when they grow up. A bad writer, a bad voice actor, you know what I'm saying? A bad traveler, like whatever it is, like a bad producer. I hope that you're open to being bad at it so that you can eventually become better. Whatever better means, and understand that you'll never be perfect. There will always be something you'll nitpick about and find that's like, oh, this is horrible. But all in all, Marcus says, and I'm short. Yes. But you were good. I don't think you have to be tall to be a good volleyball player, though. That's just my opinion, but whatever. But I think that it's really important that we see that the only way to become better, the only way up is through. Like, literally. I know that doesn't make any sense, like, visually. But the only way up is through. And taking small steps and bite-sized steps is the only way that we can get to where God wants us to be, creatively. And I also understand everybody ain't gonna like everything you do. And that shouldn't be a reason why you stop doing the thing. Do you like it? Do you want to do it? Then keep doing it. So again, shout out to you guys. This is my internet is acting wonky, and that's okay because we're about to roll out of here. But yeah, but before we leave, I want to shout you guys out. But let me know. I really want to know if you guys can write something real quick. Like, how are you going to be mediocre today? Let me know. Tell me. Like, what is something you want to start and be mediocre at? And before that, let me shout you guys out. Marcus, Jay. I hope you all can hear me because it says the internet is weird. This is weird. Jimmy. Let me actually just put you guys on there. Marcus, Jay. Jimmy. Shaughnessy. Hold on. Did I already do that? Okay, yes. Crystal. Carla. Yay. Wingable 500. Marquitas. I think I said everybody. If I didn't, please tell me. Wingable 500 said you was a good tennis player. Thank you. I appreciate that. I tried my best. I did my best. And sometimes it wasn't good enough. But I had fun. But beyond trying to be perfect tennis player, it was a lot of fun for me. But yes, if you guys want to share how you're going to be mediocre, totally fine. No pressure. But I'll just share mine with you guys. So I'm going to be mediocre. I'm going to allow myself to be mediocre by, again, writing haikus every day in April. And in May, write songs every day. And beyond that, I don't know. I'm not sure. But that's all I have for now. So anyway, I hope that you guys have a wonderful evening. I hope that it's not too late. I hope I didn't keep you too long. But overall, I hope that you're inspired and encouraged to just be bad at the thing, and to do the thing. And so until tomorrow, I'll be here tomorrow to do music. So yeah. What is happening? So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. It really is just as the internet is having a bad connection. So if it's a bad connection right now, I'm sorry guys. But I'll be back here tomorrow to make music. And until then, you guys keep creating. Ooh, Indinia, hi. Says I'm moving forward. Yes, keep moving forward. That's all we can do. And yes, thanks for coming. But yes, guys, until tomorrow, I'll talk to you later. Keep creating, keep making, because what you make matters. You matter. Even the mediocre steps, the bad steps, the average steps, it all matters. It all counts. And I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.